you'll stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Kathy Jorgensen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll have the invocation led by Reverend Mary Alice Murphy.
Let us bow our heads. Loving and gracious God, you're indeed the giver of all gifts, and we thank you today for your blessings, for the success and outcome of all our school events and activities, and for all our staff members, both the teaching and support members. And we ask you, loving God, that you continue to bless them abundantly, so that they may impart their knowledge to our children. And we continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with us, God, in our deliberations, and help us be wise in decision making, so no child left behind, for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. God, give us insight to lead with integrity, that our decision may reflect what is right and good. Yes. Keep us from short-sightedness. Help us to make decisions that are good for all of our students, and guard us from self-interest. Dear God, grant us the humility to always seek your good in all that we do and say. Now, God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to make a difference, and the wisdom to know the difference. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend.
Yeah, she's a lot better than you.
Well, I'm in training on her.
As chairman of the school board, I'm going to take the liberty to move things around a little bit, and we're going to have our public comments before we have our presentation. So that will be a little bit different on the agenda. Our first public comment, I'd like to ask Robert Mills and Danny Martinez to please come up.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may know that in 1988 to 1998, it's my pleasure and privilege to live here in Palatka and in Putnam County. In that decade that we're here, my family and I loved Palatka, fell in love with Putnam County. But unfortunately, in 1998, we moved away to Escambia County, where we resided for the next 19 years in Pensacola, Florida. When we moved to Pensacola, we discovered some interesting things there. Number one, I discovered that Escambia County was one of the poorest counties in the state. Secondly, we discovered that the school system was scraping the bottom when it came to their graduation rates. We discovered that businesses had absented themselves from downtown, and that more and more people were leaving Escambia County. So I had the privilege of living there for about 18, 19 years, and when we moved back to Palatka, my family and I made a decision to move back here from Pensacola to ultimately retire here. Interesting statement that was made to my family and me over and over and over again when we came back to Palatka. You may wonder what that is. We were asked consistently, why in the world would you move back to Palatka? That has resonated with me since we have been back. And what I'm discovering is that sentiment and that attitude seems to be part of the culture and the DNA of Putnam County and Palatka. Why would anybody want to live here? And as a result of that, we see the businesses are leaving downtown. We see that when our children grow up, they leave and go find jobs somewhere else. And as a result, worse yet, our grandchildren go with them. I suspect that what we, well, let me say this. When we moved to Palatka, to Pensacola, it was my privilege to be asked to serve on the board of directors for the Baptist Hospital in Pensacola. And there I had the opportunity to meet a man by the name of Quint Studer, who was instrumental in bringing a renaissance that has taken place in the 19 years that we lived in Pensacola. If you go to Pensacola now, you're going to discover they have a very strong school system. You're going to discover that their economy is strong, their downtown is alive, there are shops and cafes where there used to be boarded up windows and shut doors. And more than that, more and more young people are now moving to Pensacola than when they used to be absenting Pensacola. Quint Studer, when he was the administrator of the hospital, I had the opportunity to work with him. He was very instrumental in turning Baptist Hospital around in Pensacola to such extent it garnered national notoriety. As a result, Quint felt like he could do better with health care, leaving the hospital administrator and starting his own consulting business. And he did that until 2011 when he sold his business for $126 million. He has also now had a passion in helping to turn around communities that are suffering and communities that are dying. We have the opportunity to have Quint come to Palatka to help us build a community where our children are going to want to work, live, and play. And more importantly, our grandchildren are going to want to stay here. I have a passion, ladies and gentlemen, for helping to see Palatka become a thriving educational center where there are going to be businesses that are attracted back to Palatka and back to Putnam County. And so I have invited Quint to come to be in our community, and he's going to be holding a workshop, and it's my desire, my heart's desire, that you would come to that workshop on the morning of May the 4th. Morning of May the 4th. It's going to be at the county commission offices, and he's going to do a presentation, and then he is going to have a workshop. We are very fortunate to have him, and I'm grateful that you will come and be a part of helping us bring about the renaissance that I saw personally take place in Pensacola, take place here in Palatka and in Putnam County. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I want Palatka to be a place where I can watch my children and my grandchildren work and live and play. Okay. Danny Martinez has a copy of Quint's just released book entitled Building a Vibrant Community, and he's going to share a copy with all of you.
Robert, thank you so much for inviting.
Excuse me, the time of the
At 9 o'clock on
Nine.
Friday morning, 9 o'clock, May the 3rd.
And I knew one day you'd come back to Palatka. We're so glad you did. You and Angela both.
I came back also.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you did too, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mills.
It's the
Dr.
4th,
Mills.
isn't it?
Appreciate
May
you.
4th in the county commission room.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the refrigerator's empty, you said?
For you, anytime.
Thank you.
Julia.
Okay.
Thank you all again.
Okay, and next we have Miss Lindy Rowe, who wants to speak to us about the academic calendar for the 2018-2019 school year. Oh, Lindy,
Hello.
stand on your tiptoes.
Yes, I always do.
Lindy is a teacher. We are fortunate enough to have Lindy teach at QI Roberts Junior Senior High School.
Thank you. My address is 108 Sunset Point. I'm one of the few, as Dr. Mills was speaking about, that actually grew up here and then found my way back somehow. I think he's got something there that it is that culture that we just think that we have to get out. But when you come back as an adult, you realize it's not as bad as you thought it was. Anyhow, I'd like to respectfully request the board to reconsider looking at the spring break dates for the calendar next year. The calendar's published and the dates are listed right now. Good Friday is the 19th of April, and then spring break is the next 8-9 days after that, including the weekends. There's a few reasons. I know that it is particularly difficult to come to a consensus on those dates, but in looking at that, this year, for example, spring break was in March, and it ended right at the end of the third 9 weeks. And believe me when I say that we were all ready for it. Your classroom becomes like a family, and sometimes it's time for a break. And at that point in time, we were all, the third 9 weeks is probably the most difficult that students have and teachers alike because it's long, long weeks with very few breaks. You're putting in a lot of work, a lot of effort. So spring break at that time is really, really welcome. I know from personal experience this year, I came back really, really refreshed and ready to hit the fourth 9 weeks really hard and finish strong. But next year, I'm just very concerned that that won't be the case because we will have spring break in the middle of the fourth 9 weeks. So it's just really, really late. It also really starts pushing into our testing season, and particularly I think this would affect all schools, but it affects my school a great deal. But if you come back and you go immediately into testing, depending on the calendar, there's windows of time, but sometimes the calendar, because we have so many tests, they kind of get locked in, and students will have very little review time when they come back. And so it's asking them to go, 9-10 days without looking at the material, and then for certain tests, come back and take them almost immediately, which I just can't foresee. I know me personally, whenever I don't look at something for a few days, it is not very well stuck in my head. And in particular for QI Roberts, some of our college exam test dates are set by the Cambridge University. And so next year in particular, if the dates are the same as they are now listed, then we will be asking some of our students to come back and take college exams during spring break. And we'll be asking some of our teachers to come back and proctor those exams during spring break. So I just really like to, I know it's difficult, but I just think that it would be the same amount of days off. We just take that week and we just move it elsewhere. Good Friday would stay the same. It would be a holiday. That would give you a 3-day weekend at Easter, and then just moving spring break somewhere else. Preferably, I would recommend March, but really anywhere closer would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindy, for bringing that to our attention.
She does make a good point with QI and
Yes.
Cambridge.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And we've said for a while we want to coordinate it with St. John's if we can, and they're the third week in March.
Right.
Well, and and it's hard to do that because of all of
Yes.
our testing schedule and the things that we've got going on, but St. John's does, we do have our spring break the third week in March every year. We do not try to align it with Easter. It's just too hard because our semester ends the first week in May. So if we were to have it late in April, then it wouldn't be.
Should we
So
ask,
then we ask the calendar committee.
or ask the superintendent to get with the calendar committee and see if we can come up with some type of solution that will benefit all the schools and QI as well?
And I know we voted on that calendar, and we approved that calendar, but, at the time, we had no idea about QI's testing, and for those kids to have to come back and test, families
Spring
take.
break, yes.
I mean, Lindy went to Ireland during her spring break, and some families travel during their spring. I know, but aren't you glad she's traveling?
I'm just messing with you. I made a face.
Some families travel during spring break, so their kids wouldn't be able to come back and take those tests.
That's right.
So,
Well, we have
Is Debbie
Mrs.
here?
Whitehurst here.
Well,
and Laura's
actually, Miss
here.
France, I asked her to look up some information. Were you able to do that, Miss France? Miss Decky Bellis normally is on the calendar committee, and she's not here
And if
tonight.
we do this, we need to make a decision as soon as we
As soon as
can.
possible, because,
Because all the private schools as well try to complement what we do and
Yes,
follow our
right.
schedules. So, church schools.
Hi.
hey, Laura,
So some of the things that we were talking about is why was the calendar developed where it was? I do remember sitting, probably discussing the calendar at some point. I am not one who is in favor of putting it near the holiday, the Easter holiday. Those of us who attend church that week, we're here
Yeah.
because we are at church all week, and it's very. Everybody who's on asked me about the calendar. They'll know that that's not my preference. But we do try, and I do know that the committee has always tried in the past to stay with what your policy suggests. And your policy suggests that we can't start earlier than August 10th, that's state statute, and that it shall be, the first semester shall end prior to the winter. So that's really the only two things that you have in there that we should make sure that we adhere to, is that the semester ends prior to the winter break, and that we don't start any more than August 10th. So those are the two things that we should adhere to as we try to develop that calendar. There are no other rules regarding holidays besides in statute which ones we should take off. I did copy your statewide calendar for assessment for next year for you, and a copy of the
does
current
any of that fall
calendar.
in March?
I believe it starts in April. Yes, all testing starts in, there is some March for retakes, But generally, it all starts in April.
Right.
So that whatever calendar we developed,
The FSA writing, third, eighth.
whatever calendar is developed has to actually go along with these dates. We have to look at the calendar. And I will say that our calendar has already been submitted to the state for approval so that it does not interfere. And remember, these are windows, so we can go before or after those windows, but we've already submitted the calendar that you currently have to the state for approval, and it has been approved.
And how hard would it be?
The only thing I could tell you is that would be a question for Renee Lamrose. She's the one who submits it to the state for approval as far as on this side for
It's an
assessment.
amended form of some
Yeah,
kind, like
it's
a
got to
tax
be.
return gets amended.
The only thing I would say is, I understand exactly what Lindy's saying. My child will be one of those children that will come back to test. So what is what is. That's okay. But I would just caution us that many people have shared this calendar that we currently have with family members as they are trying to develop their spring breaks for next year. I want to be sure that we understand that it may cause other conflicts. I mean,
That is why timing is of the essence.
But,
if you're
but
gonna
it
do
doesn't require a student to come back to school to take a test during spring break.
Lindy, can you correct me if I'm wrong, please? Do many of our kids that are taking ACE tests now have to come back after school ends to take those tests in June?
Okay,
Yes.
right.
And I think that this may affect not just QI, unless they've changed the progression a little bit, it would also affect Crescent City High School. They may have changed the science progression that it may not affect them this year, but it could in the future.
So what do we need to do to get the calendar committee to look at this?
Madam Chairman, could you please direct the superintendent to look at amending the calendar to suit the needs of the QI Roberts testing schedule?
Yeah, we'll bring back a recommendation at the May 1st meeting and convene the calendar committee once
Well,
again.
thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate y'all looking at that. Okay. All righty then. We are ready now for our presentations. Unfortunately, our district spelling bee winner, Jaden Wicker, was not able to be here tonight, but we are very, very proud of him and very sad that the Wicker family will be moving to the Tampa area when school is out. That we will miss that family and those children very much. And next, Mr. Stout, would you come up? Mr. Stout, Mr. J.T. Stout is the principal of Palatka High School, and he's going to introduce some very special young men to you and their coaches. And I'll just have to say, all of our basketball teams in the county did really well this season, but the Palatka High School Panther basketball team made it to the Final Four. And I also need to tell you that during that trip leading up to the Final Four, I about had to start taking digitalis because I had more heart problems during those basketball games than you can imagine. But oh, what a wonderful time it was. And Miss Gilliard was right there with me. What a wonderful season, and you just made Putnam County so proud.
Pam Brown kept me abreast.
And Pam Brown, she was at all of them too.
On the phone,
She was like
yeah.
announcing important
Yeah.
stuff at all the games.
So I want to, we've got two groups that we're going to recognize tonight. Of course, the boys basketball team who went to the Final Four for the second year in a row. We also have some wrestlers here that also went to the state finals for the second year in a row. So we've got some really good things going on in Palatka High School athletics. First, with our basketball team, I'm going to call up Coach Bryant Oxendine, and he will introduce his coaching staff and players. And guys, when he calls you, just come up to the middle in the front.
Coach of the Year.
You are to be commended.
Coach of
Let's
the
give
year.
him a round of applause.
Thank you, everybody. First of all, let me say good afternoon to the school board, to the superintendent Cerncy, to everyone out here, to my principal. It's almost like deja vu. I was standing here last year, which is a good thing. Thank you for all your compliments. The team did an amazing thing. They worked their butts off. They had to put up with me, hounding them all the time. It's just an incredible run and journey. And believe it or not, the journey is not over. The journey is just beginning, because our program is doing nothing but taking upward strides. But I don't want to keep you all night, so let me introduce my coaches. First of all, let me introduce Coach Al Leonard. Coach Brian Walters. Coach Eugene Bly. And I don't, something came up with Coach Jason Shaw, our chief of police. He's one of our coaches. And Coach Alonzo Mulberry. They're not here at this time, but they, without these gentlemen, I couldn't do none of this. I mean, they commit to the program. They're dedicated, and they not only want to see, as myself, want to see good basketball players, but they want to see good citizens, good students, and just good men. And that's what we're about. If we can get a good basketball player out of the deal, we're fine with that. But those other things have to be the qualifications to play at the Palaca High School Basketball Panthers. At this time, we're going to introduce our players. As you can see, we're short a few players, but some of them couldn't be here. Some of them got jobs. Some of them had other things come up. But we're very proud of these young men. I can't tell you how proud we are. First, I'd like to introduce Wesley Roberts, sophomore. Jaron Johnson, senior. Spencer Walker, sophomore. Malik Buford, sophomore. We like to call him Smooth. Dequarius Felder, Day-Day. He told me not to call him Day-Day, to call him Day Bucks, but I'm going to call him Day-Day. Mitchell McKinnon.
All right.
Bird. We got to call him Bird. Mitchell McKinnon is a junior. Day-Day is a junior also. Brandon Johnson. Brandon Hampton, I'm sorry. Him and Jaron are together so much I can't tell one from the other, so. Brandon Hampton is a senior, and Deshaun Shaw, he's a sophomore. In their absence, Shamar Dumas, senior. Yes, Wadante Smith, he's a junior, and Mike Williams, the third, he's a junior.
So most of them are coming back.
Most of them are coming back. We only lose 3 people. That's Brandon, Jaron, and Shamar. Everybody else is returning.
They
Madam Chair,
certainly.
you want your picture with it?
They certainly.
Can I say a few things, Mr. Sterncy, right here? I just want to let everybody know. Well, first of all, let me say this. I thank God for the season that we had, because He does guide us in all that we do. So I thank God for standing with us, and I just want everybody to understand the historic moment that we had in this season at PHS. First of all, we started a tournament 7 years ago in honor of one of our citizens that went to the NFL, Jarvis Williams. We started a tournament, the Jarvis Williams tournament, and lo and behold, we hadn't won it in 7 years. And I can imagine what Jarvis would say, but I knew Jarvis. But we won the Jarvis Williams tournament this year for the first time.
It's a good sign.
Yes. Then we went on the first year of the St. Johns River Athletic Conference. They put a tournament together, and we won that. We're the first ones to win that. We're the champions of the St. Johns River Athletic Conference. Then we went on to win the district championship back-to-back. We won the regional championship back-to-back. Back-to-back Final Four appearance this year. Ended the season ranked number 2 in the state in Class 6A Max Prep. 28-3 record, best record in Palaca basketball history. And I don't know if any of you realize this, but we went undefeated at home. Nobody, and I mean nobody, beat us at home.
Coach, I was going to say that's what I call really trying to restore the roar.
Thank you, Mr. Buckle. Thank you, sir. And I'll say this, and I'll move on, and you can take the pictures. We have a lot to be thankful for. We put in a lot of hard work, set standards, and expectations for this program. We are proud of the dedication and commitment and hard work, faith, loyalty, love, and trust these young men invested in the program and in each other. We are very proud of all of them. Thank you.
Hair fixed like that. Wish I could grow my hair out like that. Got it high and tight today, but it just won't go up. I can't sleep on my pillow when I get that.
Al Leonard, tighten up.
Hey, next Friday, remind me I want to come in before Friday. You're not going to be there, are you? Maybe we'll come 27th?
Friday is,
No, you got 27th.
What part is the 27th?
I got some good
Yeah, I will. I can turn.
treating people bad.
No, you can. Really?
A few things I want to say. House cleaning. I'd like to thank Mr. Stout for all his support. All the administrators at Palaca High School, including Ms. Pam Brown, who's sitting in the audience. I'd like to thank Ms. Lisa Thomas, who puts in so much work till it's just incredible. Wave, Lisa. Wave, Pam. I'd like to thank our AD, Bobby Humphreys, for supporting us also. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife. You know, they've heard me say this before lately, for putting up with me when we lose, because I'm hard to live with when we lose.
You only had 3 times.
Yeah, she didn't have to put up with much. But thank y'all again. Thank y'all.
Next, I'd like to call up Coach Josh White from our wrestling team, who also went to state back-to-back. Dr. Cerncy will have to bring in our weightlifting team. They also had 2 guys that went to state this year again.
Yes, they
Panama
did.
City, yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a place.
Thank you.
Make a note of that.
Okay, don't know what to say. I mean, follow that again. I got to follow that and come up with something. I want to thank the support for the wrestling team from everybody. And, I mean, it's the same people he just named. If without you guys, we wouldn't have this, especially with wrestling. Wrestling is so unknown in this state and in this community. It's not like, I don't know if I mentioned when I wrestled in college, I had people stopping me on the sidewalk in Pennsylvania wanting an autograph. I'm like, I just got here. I haven't even proved anything. They just knew I wrestled. That was all that. So it's a different world. So without the support of the school, without the support of that man back there in the office hiding from us, Travis Weaver, this program would have fallen on its face years ago. And it's here, and it survives, and it's grinding, and you know, like the basketball team knows, it's a grind for them, it's a grind for us. It's a very long season, and it's nonstop. This is more personal with these 2 gentlemen here. Trying to think of all day what I'm going to say. I've had these 2 guys in front of me day in and day out for 4 years. Hour upon hour of wrestling, hour upon hour of tournaments. And tournaments are 2 days long. Tournaments are from 8 in the morning to 10 at night, 2 days in a row. It's all day, and it's nonstop. These 2 have been around. I'm going to miss them. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to miss them. They're I could always, since their freshman year, I could always depend I'm going to get a win out of them. We were always going to get a win out of them. I'll probably get a win out of them. I'm not going to get a win out of them no more. And I don't know what to say. I mean, they've grown up to be really, really good young men.
They're going to go on to do
And
great things,
and
Josh.
my hope and prayer is they are going to go on, get their education, and they're going to return. I want them coming back to this community, and that's right. I've said that to them a couple times. Get your education, come back. Get your education, come back. This is what we need. We need people to come back. We need family to come back. I went and got an education, I came back. Half of us went away, got an education, we came back. And that's the biggest thing, and I'm going to miss them. They did exactly what they did last year. They went together, they've been together, they got the same record, 45 and 15 this year. I mean, identical records. I'm going to miss them. That's all I can say. I don't know what else to say with that. Without breaking down. I don't want to break down. But I am going to miss those two. They've been around. And some of these little scrapes on my forehead that you can see in my left ear. Thanks, Brian. I can't sleep. It hurts. We've been rolling around on Monday and Friday afternoons, getting some of the other guys involved, keeping them up there, and him and I roll around and wrestle. And yeah, so I'm gonna seriously miss these guys when they graduate. And I really, really, really hope they could get an education and come back.
Call them up.
You're pretty brave to be wrestling with those guys. I remember a long time ago.
Well, Brian had me limping 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, me too.
I was limping 2 weeks ago. I was icing my knee for a whole day. I said, "You're not allowed to touch that knee today."
I get you.
And he respected that. Without any further, before I break down, I want to introduce you. I'll start with our 195-pounder, Brian Smith. He's a senior. I wish I had a lifetime record, but I know he's had a winning record every year he's wrestled.
All right, Brian.
So every year he's wrestled, he's had a winning record. My other one that's leaving me is Ira Dixon. He's also a senior.
Way to go, Ira.
And one other thing, and this is brand new, and I'm gonna get out of the way. Basketball team's awesome. They've done a great thing. The state started the new thing, and it's called district duels. Okay, a meet between two teams is called a dual meet. All right, we have two different championships now. We have two different states. We have a dual team states, and we have a individual team state, which also teams win too. And okay, these guys qualified for an individual, but it wasn't very well known. It wasn't very well publicized because it was brand new. These guys are instrumental in winning the first year that we've ever had dual team district tournament. So we won our first year dual team district. And I'm hoping they come back because all we have are freshmen and sophomore now for next year. That's all we got. It's all freshmen and sophomore. And they're leaving a big hole. And
maybe they'll come back and help you.
I hope so. I hope they get their education first.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, guys. Saturday, and I told the guys that were fussing about Ollie, and he worked for the school system. I said, "Better the devil you know than the devil you don't."
That's all I got.
And last, but certainly not least, Linda Myers from the Putnam County Tax Collector's Office. She is our tax collector. She's not fielding complaints tonight.
We always are doing that.
Always on
We're
duty
always
for
ready
that.
for that. But thank you, Madam Chairman, school board members, superintendent, and everybody in the audience, school staff, but also families that are here to celebrate accomplishments. I really feel like I'm a coach. I want to be a coach. This is fantastic. This is a quick aside. I do not know a lot of young people anymore now that my children are grown. And so to be in a room with talented young people is astonishing. I look forward to what you bring back to our community because I know you're going to do it. But I'm actually here to celebrate another event that has to do with our children. And but for a couple of people, kids tag art would not occur. So if you came in, you passed those designs. There are 40 tags out there designed by our 5th grade students. We actually had 425 designs this year, which is amazing. And we had judges that had to settle down on 40. So what a job that was. But let me just share, if it wasn't for a few group of people, and that would be, first of all, our staff at the schools that put the effort in to support this program. I know you guys are doing from 7 to 7 at night. You're doing stuff for our children. But you made room for this program. Thank you very much. It was in 8 elementary schools this year. Last year, his first year was only in 3. The second group of people, equally are important, are our sponsors. So we're really here tonight for you to know as a board, because your mission is our children, that you have supporters in this community. And you know that, but I want to make sure that you know the ones who stepped forward for this event with not only their time, but their dollars. And those are the 4 businesses we're going to recognize in just a moment. We also have 2 partners in the arts world. We have the Arts Council of Palatka, or Greater Palatka, I believe is its term. And this year, Florida School of the Arts took an interest in this program and has joined as one of our sponsors. And I will tell you what Dean Alan Henschel had to say. We were the celebration, which I believe you all have a brochure, so you'll get an idea that the level of sophistication this event was for your children and mine. Alan Henschel spoke to them and said, "What talent I see. And I believe some of you will be my Flow Arts students in the future." So terrific. Again, celebrating accomplishments. But for these partners that I'm going to call up, please join me. And that would be our major sponsor, which is the Beck Auto Group, represented by Wayne McLean. Please come up. And we have Trudy Novak, who is here with Seminole Electric. And we have J.J. Gullett, who is here with Gullett Title Company. And also Daniel Carl. Please join us, Daniel, with Waste Pro. I believe that they would like to just spend, I told them they only had a minute or 2, but you needed to hear from them. No, and I will tell you that Daniel Carl said, "I'll just show up, but I won't speak." Right. But you'll get the feeling from, this is a man who really believes in our community, as you know, but we do need to have him up here to recognize. But let's hear from our sponsors of this program.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda. Great to be part of this program. Second year in a row. We hope to do it 3 years in a row. Great for our kids. Thank you.
Okay, hello, I'm Trudy Novak. I'm the Vice President of Member Services and External Affairs at Seminole Electric Cooperative. I'm assuming most of you know about Seminole, but I just want to say a few words about our co-op. First, we are a generation and transmission electric cooperative, a non-for-profit electric utility that sells electric service to 9 member distribution co-ops in the state of Florida. One of those co-ops is Clay Electric, so some of you may be members of Clay. And as co-ops, we provide electric service, again, not for profit, and the members, the consumers who buy service from us, are actually the owners of the co-op. And as a co-op, one of our major principles of operating as a co-op is giving back to the community and concern for the community. And we are really excited. A couple years ago, when Linda Myers asked our CEO, Lisa Johnson, if Seminole would like to help sponsor this for the Putnam County schools and art in the schools, we said yes. We said it's critically important not only to support STEM as an electric utility, the STEM projects are really critical, important to us, but also supporting the arts is also very important. And we are so excited to be a partner with the Putnam County schools and providing arts funding in the schools. And I understand in the last 2 years, this project raised more than $7,000 for arts in your schools. So we are very excited about being partners in this program the last 2 years, and we look forward for the next year as well and going on in the future. And so thank you so much. We really appreciate being a part of it.
I want to say I met Ms. Novak a minute ago before the meeting, and just so you understand, she drove up from Tampa for our meeting tonight. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for taking time to do that.
It's a pleasure to be here. It really is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, you see the kind of passion these businesses and many businesses in our community, without them so much would not happen. But I would like to just remind the folks, it was a little over $7,255 and counting, because those plates are for sale. And every time someone goes online and buys one of those plates, that money, a portion of that money goes to the school where that tag was designed. So it's still an awesome opportunity. Oh, we love this program. The children love it. We had some principals there at this event, and they just couldn't stop talking about the joy in their children's face when they were presented with their actual tag. Every child got their own tag.
That is beautiful.
And our sponsors all received a tag of their choice as well. And so we have here the tag of choice of superintendent. This is your choice tag, and I will tell you it was done by Gianna Stagel from Melrose Elementary, and she was very proud to receive the school board's award. So we're going to present that to you tonight, and Madam Chair, could you join our sponsors as well as Mr. Cernsey? We want to show you the check. I will tell you, last year we gave you guys the check. This year we circumvented you. It went straight to the schools, and they were very excited to take their own check back to school. So with that,
Well, now, Daniel Carl, I didn't recognize him till he turned around. I was so used to seeing him from the other side. And
oh, stop. Oh, stop.
He and JJ.
How do you put up with him?
David, I got vehicles to go with these.
Okay, I got you.
And why don't you grab that? Oh, yeah, thank you. That is your tag.
What email?
That art, what email?
Thank you. Thank you.
Linda, thank you so much.
Well, Madam Chair, it is our pleasure, and we'll look forward to next year. We have continue to grow the program. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, we have come to the consent agenda part. So I need to find out if anybody wants to pull anything.
Madam Chair, I don't.
Oh, you want to let me start with you?
Yes, since
Okay.
you always have in the past. I don't want to pull anything.
Yeah, we don't want to mix it up. Mr. Buckles.
Just briefly, G1 and D3.
D3. G1.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had
CPR training. I've never heard him pull.
D3.
D3, Ms.
Yeah.
Cummings.
I have nothing.
And D3 also, but it's already been pulled.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus D3 and G1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Buckles, I'll let you.
I'll start with D3. I was very pleased to see that the committee had developed and was working hard to try to come up with a plan. And you know, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So having things in motion made me feel better. I had briefly talked with the superintendent. I think he's finally got, you know, a great committee together, and we're gonna not only address the immediate concerns, but I know this board at some point will continue to go into the student handbook and other disciplinary matters that go along with this. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And on G1, it's the CPR.
Wait. Let's finish D3.
Okay, I'm through.
Nikki?
Yeah, I was actually, the task force is well established. I just had a couple of questions about how the committee, when we run a meeting, I'm a little concerned because I was approached by a couple of the municipalities and asked, hey, we had an idea, we had a proposal, we're not on the committee, so I didn't know how the board wanted to address if the committee has to say, we want to hear from someone, or we want to hear from, this, for instance, was Crescent City Police Chief, and he had a great idea he wanted to present to the committee. So I thought, well, you know, I don't know, let's talk to the school board since it's appointed and see how the procedure. And I know that, you know, when we have an agenda, I'm assuming the first meeting, the committee would assign a chairman and a vice chair and a secretary. So that would be something, and then they maybe could say, whether or not they would allow. I guess I just want to make sure the proper, you know, guidelines, rather than, you know, if the board made a statement to say, we would like to see the committee run, you know, this would be the procedure, just as far as, you know, chairman, vice chair, secretary, and if you would like to have a public speaker, this would be how you do it.
And we have the agenda, and I was going to send that to you after the meeting tonight, and it does allow for norms. And basically what the purpose of the meeting is, electing a chair and a vice chair.
Okay.
And of course, the chair and the vice chair can, you know, determine what that subsequent agendas will be.
Okay.
And if they want someone to come present to the committee in the next two meetings of this round, then that's perfectly fine.
And because also they could, you know, maybe at some point meet with one of the members if.
Right, and that's kind of what, you know, they didn't know the proper procedure. A couple of people different reached out to me and said we had, you know, some things we want to present, and I just don't want to tell them something that's not based upon what the committee and what it should be, because it should be orderly and efficient, and we have to have everything, you know.
Right.
And we have advertised that meeting, and
When's I needed the
it's
date.
going to be Thursday night, 5 o'clock in here. And since that's a public meeting, if
so we can all attend, even though Ms. Gilliard is our representative from the board. Okay.
And the one quick thing, I know Ms. Gilliard is one of the 21, and I think, and maybe I should have reiterated, because in the reality of when I made the motion of 21 people was voting members, because if there was a split 10-10 as a recommendation, that would cause a problem. So now I feel, when I saw there was 21 counting Ms. Gilliard, because she's not a voting member, it kind of concerned me. So
it should be a voting member.
No.
No.
Well, I mean,
There is a policy in place, and going off of memory from the last meeting that we had in Interlochen, I believe that the school board member is encouraged not to be a voting member. It's more of an ex officio capacity that can participate in the discussion, but not to vote. I can confirm that, and if there's.
But then you probably need one more person.
If there's a problem.
Have a vote.
well,
Terrell.
and Terrell is a voting member
I know.
again.
He's a voting member again,
They
but what's
changed
the
it.
difference between he's elected and Sandy's elected?
I don't think you.
Well, he's representing.
Well, this is a school board committee, I
Okay,
think.
okay.
I
That's
will
the
say
difference.
that the one police chief that did call, and he wasn't contacted, and he really had a lot of information that he felt would be viable, was the police chief of Crescent City. And I said, well, I could at least mention it. You know, I don't know. It's kind of late, but he said, I would definitely, if not, he wants to present, but I don't know if he could be a voting member.
Well,
but
and you know, he could come to the meeting, and if
Yeah.
they allow for comment or questions, that
if we have a 20 member and it's a 10-10, I'm just trying to think ahead, because
they can call me.
Yeah, I don't think it would delay the board going, the task force moving forward on
Okay.
Thursday. If there's somebody that needs to be switched out as far as the voting or not, the board can always come back at the next regularly scheduled meeting and approve the new amended change.
Okay.
If you have recommendations, you can obviously forward those to the superintendent.
Thomas.
It's his ultimate decision on who he wants to serve on the board, or rather on the task force,
Right.
and it's the board decision to approve that.
Right.
And so that can be done in.
But the
Right,
next
and-
meeting is too late. They're gonna,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
gonna vote on
I
it.
was just again worried about the members of the 21, because when
I would like to add, I'd like to make a motion that we add the Crescent City Police Chief. That's a motion. Is there a second?
is that second, and then second that for sure.
Well, before
And then we approve this
We got a-
list plus the Crescent City.
we've got a
Police.
second. Can I ask the superintendent a question?
Yes.
By doing this, is this gonna unload a floodgate of other law enforcement people that want to be involved?
No, It's hard to say. I mean, we haven't had people knocking on our door wanting to be on it, but, you know.
Actually,
We have?
Yeah, I had a phone
Mr.
call.
Now we're
Bowling's on
knocking
a,
on Mr. Bowling's door.
yeah, we were on a committee, so they called him instead of me.
Yeah.
Right, and we actually reached out to the board attorney and asked, could we add additional people who were coming forward? As a matter of fact, we had the original 21, and then we got board recommendations after the fact. And the board attorney said, bump some people, but keep it at 21 because that was the original vote.
To have a 21-member
Yes,
committee.
it was.
But 21 voting members, not an ex officio, and we made it very clear the board members ex officio. So.
Right, and I get it. I was just speaking to the fact of opening
Other
up
people were
floodgates.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we uninvited a
Cast
number of
lots.
people after that.
and I don't want to get into all that. I just wanted to make the point of it's a 20-member, should have been 21. She's not a voting member.
Well, if we add this one person, then it will be back to 21.
Yeah, I'm reading now from policy number 9140. It says school board members may be ex officio members of an advisory committee. So my interpretation of that is that the school board member should not be a voting member.
Okay.
So if you would,
That's true.
if you would advise for a school board member to be on that committee in an ex officio capacity, that's okay. But I believe it was the intent of the board that those 21 members should be voting, and it was decided to be an odd number so that there would not be a tie.
Right. That's all I
in
was
the-
concerned
in the event
about.
of a very close vote. So I believe the appropriate action for the board would be to recommend that the superintendent remove the current board member as a voting member and potentially still keep that member on as ex officio. And then to add someone of his choosing that fits the other parameters from the vote that you had at Interlochen as that 21st voting
Can
member.
it be of our
Okay,
choosing?
if
it's
it's a
supposed-
board task force, why does the superintendent
The-
choose the member?
That's the policy, and it kind of harkens back to the way the federal government is organized, and those, the president makes the appointment and the Senate advises and consents. In a similar way, this board advises and consents to whoever the superintendent appoints to that committee.
Okay, with that being said, then with Mr. Boland being given the task from the superintendent, and he's already stated that he has a list of names that have been knocking on his door to become a member, to find out about it, take that one from Crescent City and put it in there and cast lot. Whichever one falls out will be the one. We can't just take the one from Crescent City just because we said take it. You've done all of this. You have the names of those that have, stated an interest. Did the gentleman from Crescent City say that I'm interested? Is he one of the names you
Never
have?
asked to
Not to
begin
my
with.
He was
All
never
right, well,
asked.
get this name and then you go with it.
Well, what is the proper procedure?
How
For
many
us
names?
just to pick
No, no,
another
and cast lots.
21st person?
I know,
Is that
but how
what-
many names did
And
he
the
have to
person
get rid of?
that the superintendent picks to fill that
They've
21st
already-
slot
they've
should
already
be
pulled names.
in line with the advice that you gave at that last board meeting. As for the makeup, who you wanted all of those people to be representative of.
You've
Now,
got,
Ms. Gilliard was listed as was it a school board member?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And it may be the superintendent's recommendation that she remain on the task force as an
But she
ex
doesn't
officio
vote.
And I think
member.
it's
I just don't
necessary.
vote, I'm
yeah.
just
She
there
would not vote.
to listen.
That's
So as
not
far
what
as the
the
vote
committees
goes
are.
tonight, is it, so because our next board meeting will be after
The
they
first
meet,
meeting.
how can they make that motion to include this new person who has not been determined yet?
I think it would probably, I don't know.
Well, we have a
you know.
motion on the floor in
Right,
a
and
second.
that's pretty much what I was
And-
going to say.
and the board's recommendation would be to add the police chief of Crescent City?
well, that was
That's
the,
the
that was the
Is
motion.
that
My,
something that
my
the
concern,
superintendent is-
I'm fine with that, yeah, I just want to make sure we follow the,
my concern
Procedures.
is
I
the
know
other
the police
people
chief
that
well in
have been
Crescent City,
ousted
define
and
them.
the other law enforcement people. You can't, at some point, you've got to say enough's enough. I mean, we've got some top-notch folks on this committee that are, that I.
Gotta have a
read.
tiebreaker.
Well, it sounds to me that the superintendent is amenable to having the police chief of Crescent City as the 21st voting member, and would amend his list to you here to take off Mrs. Gilliard as the voting member and include the police chief as the next one.
I agree
I'm not in favor of that.
I agree with Sandy.
I think that a police chief is more valuable than Joe Blow, who wants to be on the committee.
Well, you got a police chief, you got one. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have him, but here, the one that was given the task of finding, of meeting the requirements that were
But the
given,
requirements
that was
weren't
stated.
met. That's the problem. The requirements weren't met.
If they were bumped,
then we're saying,
Didn't clarify.
then I agree with Ms. Gilliard that
I say,
Put 'em in a
take
bowl
that
and pick one
name
out.
that was given, and let's do things right. You saying you have received additional names. Had you not come up here and stated that, I would be all for the gentleman in Crescent City. I have nothing against him, don't know him, no axe to grind or anything. But I'm saying we need to do it the right way.
I appreciate exactly what Ms. Gilliard is saying. The only other concern that I have is with the actual process itself. If it's not resolved tonight, if we go back and pull names out of a hat, is that allowable?
That's what I'm concerned about. I just want to make sure this process can move forward tonight.
We vote.
Yeah, because we fully intend to meet Thursday night
Right.
if you approve this
I've
committee.
had career law
who the ones
enforcement
are
people
that you
call me
have?
wanting to get on it, and
No, ma'am, not right off the bat.
I mean,
One
you
or
know
two,
how
but it
many
wouldn't be
times?
fair. We had, the original list was 21, and then we took board recommendations, and I think we put board recommended by those people, so
did. I have it
subtract,
right here.
We've
subtract
subtracted
the
at
ones
least
that
6
we.
people to put the board recommended people
There's
on there.
5 that say board recommended by it.
And
No,
I will only
6.
vote for the list you
1,
have
2,
tonight,
3, 4,
and then we
5.
can
One up
add
top.
someone. That's the way to do
I
it.
will do that too.
Yeah, I'm,
I don't think it's fair to the ones that have been bumped to just
Oh,
say,
okay,
hey,
I'm
this
sorry.
guy wanted in,
That's
when I've
fine.
had other
Sorry.
guys,
I'm gonna vote.
career
vote
law
for what we
enforcement
have
say
now,
they wanted on, and I
then
told them it
we
was
will
full.
make that later.
Well, it could be a tie vote. I'm just
let's vote.
putting it out. I'm just trying to say, never any committee I've been on, it's always been an odd number of voting members. So I thought, and maybe we should have clarified 22, counting Miss Gilliard as a board
Well, we
appointed, but,
didn't
and
think
it's just
about
a clarification that I felt should be brought up now, because I'd rather it be, and if it's okay, and we have a 10-10 vote, and then we have to deal with,
Would it be appropriate if there was a 10-10 vote for the committee to provide a written recommendation at that point, basically stating that it was a tie?
Yes.
And then,
Yeah, that would be, that's fine.
That's
yeah.
appropriate.
okay, so,
And then there's
Okay,
5
as
of
long as
us.
that's not gonna be an issue down the road.
Their vote will be recorded like any other vote, so you'll know exactly what the breakdown is.
again, it was just the the even number concerned me, but again, that he did, we had a discussion and he had some things, so that would be a presentation. You can be a presenter, since you are a law enforcement agency.
Like I say, I told the career law enforcement man that got in touch with me that we were full and weren't taking any more, so.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. I don't want to say, hey, we want to add, but I just was concerned about the odd number.
Nothing wrong, that's a good idea, but I just feel like it's not right to the ones we pulled.
Yeah. And the other thing was, I was a little concerned about, which I know we have a motion on the board on. I don't know how to do it.
Do we need to
The-
rescind the motion?
The Florida Department of Education has set up on the 25th and the 26th a conference for all the superintendents to talk about the the safety bill, and so I'm not sure if you were attending, but I was really concerned because the last task force meeting is the 26th. So anything
I'll be back for the meeting.
Right, but my point is, okay, so you can present, I just felt like whatever you learn up in Tallahassee and all the information,
You'll be
that
back
the
in time to
committee
share.
would need to hear all the presentating, so you'll be back this.
Yeah, and actually the focus of that superintendent's meeting is, and I'm sure they'll talk about 7026, but the main part of 7026 is the mental health services. That's the main focus of our meeting. And they may talk about the other 3 options, but I plan on being back in time for that meeting.
Well, yeah, because I know
Orlando.
that would be some very instrumental, pertinent information, and I didn't want the committee to miss that information,
I
so.
understand.
And then the other thing, are we, as far as communicating, they have asked a couple people, well, how do we get information? How do we, can we have an email, or there going to be some type of documents? And
Well, actually, since
mean
you
the
said
members of
that,
the
after
committee?
this meeting tonight, I've asked Felicia to email the actual statute to all the committee members
Okay.
tonight. And,
I think it's already been done in anticipation, and it was prefaced by saying pending board approval. We
Okay.
intend to meet, and please
We
familiarize
have an
yourself with the
agenda,
statute.
and Felicia, after this meeting, if you'll email all the board members that agenda, and I think we're gonna post that agenda, is that right? As part of our sunshine?
Can
Yeah,
she
we just
email it
gotta
to
talk
us
about,
too?
I'm sorry?
Can it be emailed to us too?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we're gonna email it to you.
And the
Oh, I thought
policy,
you meant the board, the team, the task force.
Well,
meeting.
then, but y'all as well.
Okay.
and the policy does speak to that point exactly. It says the correspondence between the school board and its committees shall ordinarily be conducted by the superintendent. So he'd be the one with the direct communication of the committee. And the superintendent shall transmit the contents of any communication from a committee to the school board in a timely manner. When a committee is ready to submit a report on its assigned topic, the superintendent shall arrange a special meeting for the purpose of receiving the report. So that is how the
so
policy.
if we had something like, for instance, we got it in our email today from FSBA and the survey that they did across the state, which was
Yeah, I got
great.
that.
And I was like, oh, so can I
You would give
forward
that
this to the
And he would
superintendent?
give that to the.
So there'll be a list. Okay, great. Perfect. That would be very. And the last question is, if they felt like they cannot come up with, they don't have enough time on the 26th, and these 3 meetings have been set up, and the task force says we cannot make a decision on this day, is it a recommendation? Yeah, what happens?
Well, the task force would be advised to do their very best to come up with their recommendation within the timeframe that was dictated in the original creation of the task force. And if they fail to do that, they would fail to do that, but they would be strongly encouraged not to, and would try make every effort possible to conclude their analysis and provide a recommendation under the constraints that are before them.
Okay.
So encouraged, but not.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah, if they can't come to a decision, they can't come to a decision.
It's kind of like a hung jury.
In 2 meetings?
They're gonna
It's only
come, they'll come to a
They already
decision.
had one, didn't they?
No.
Oh.
No.
They couldn't meet
They
until
couldn't
y'all
meet till we
approved it.
approved this.
All right, either vote this up or down.
Well, wait a
or
minute, I
rescind
got a
it.
question.
Okay.
Still got a motion.
Sorry, I just,
I remember when I read Mr. Freeman's task force information that he gave us, it said it was very, very important to have a strong facilitator. And I have been on committees this big, and it can totally get out of hand if you don't have somebody that is,
Absolutely.
you know, that
Yes.
that knows
I
how
would
to
echo
run
that.
knows how to run a meeting and is a very strong facilitator. So I would encourage the superintendent and Ms. Gilliard, I know you don't vote, but to remind the committee of that, and I guess the chairman, whoever's elected, the chairman will be the facilitator. Is
Well,
that
we'll
right?
we'll make that very clear when they elect their chairman or facilitator that time is of the essence, and that person needs to be able to lead a meeting very effectively.
So I think it would be a good question to ask if anyone on that committee has experience in facilitating.
Yeah.
And the policy does give some guidance as to the characteristic of the chairperson. The policy states the chairperson of an advisory committee shall be chosen from among the lay members. We don't get any further guidance about what lay means, but I think it could be fairly interpreted that it would not be somebody of education expertise or probably even legal expertise.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so David, now.
On D3, before we change, we just want to, yes, it was advertised, and the Palatka Daily News did an excellent job. They quoted the supervisor of elections, so though, you know, someone is aware of it, and I'm sure some of the calls started coming after they possibly read the article. So it was in the Palatka Daily News.
And by the way, the agenda, and when you see the agenda, the decision could actually be made in that first meeting. I mean, the agenda is discussion, input, and action at the very end. So again, if they need additional time, that's why we build in additional meetings. But, and I'm sure one meeting may not do it, but again, well, I'm trying to meet the requirement of time, and
That's your requirement of time.
Yeah, that's the sheriff's time.
Yeah, right.
no, it's our requirement of time because we have to do allocations. That was the reason why we had the May 1st deadline.
So then,
Yeah, I have
what
a problem
about
with
the
that.
motion that's on the floor? How do we
Well, we
handle
rescind
that
it.
so that we could move on?
Well, we
I
rescind it
think
because
an
yours
appropriate
was to.
motion, from what I have heard from the board so far, would be to
No,
approve.
there is a motion on the floor. And
Yeah,
so-
rescind it because it is to add the chief
In 20
of
minutes.
Crescent City was her motion.
That was your motion, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah.
I mean, you can call the motion and you can vote it down or up or
I just say
whatever. I don't,
rescind it.
well, I don't know. Do I have to rescind it?
You don't.
Oh, but I
Okay, so.
I mean, you can vote it down. I don't
Okay,
care.
we have a motion on the floor to place the police chief of Crescent City on.
Second from Nikki.
Right.
She
As the
seconded it.
21st voting member.
Getting that, I was getting there.
You can rescind your second, and it would fail for lack of a second, if that's what your decision would be.
She'd already, oh.
She's already told the guy she.
I guess just because of the clarity of it and the board, I wouldn't want the police chief to think we didn't want him because of us voting him down. I think it would be a clarity item of the committee's full, the clarification that I asked for about an even number of voting. You know what I mean?
So are you suggesting that we rescind?
I think it's just easier to rescind than ask him to be a presenter.
He just said you can rescind your second and it's.
I mean,
Well, if you rescind your second, there's no motion on the floor unless somebody else seconds it.
I guess
That's fine. I don't care.
No, I guess I was just.
I
It
really
didn't
don't.
seem order. It doesn't seem a point of order if the superintendent appoints the committee. Why would we vote for a member? I don't think that's in
Because
order.
we have to approve this.
That's right.
We
Right,
could
that's
change
why-
every name on
I
this.
started off by saying it would be an appropriate motion for the board to make to approve the list minus Mrs. Gilliard as a voting member.
Oh, so we need to minus her in our motion?
Yeah, because the list before you is a list of 21 people. So if you
Robert's
approve the
Rules of
list
Order.
as a whole, then you would be approving Ms. Gilliard as a voting member. So an appropriate motion would be to approve the list minus Ms. Gilliard as a voting member.
Okay. I rescind my motion then and
Your second.
second.
And
therefore the motion dies. The motion dies.
To second.
Okay, so the original motion dies.
I make a motion to approve the task force committee minus Mrs. Gilliard as a voting member.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No, me.
Motion passes.
Whatever. Aye.
Okay, so now we have, Mr. Buckles would like to say something
I just
about
wanted
G1.
to, I just was so happy to see this listed. It is so important that everyone who works in our sites, on our school sites, and we're around children, around other folks, be trained in CPR because you never know that it's going to happen. You're going to have somebody have a heart attack or get a child knocked unconscious or drown on a field trip. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So I just hats off to the instructional team for asking for the consultant. Very nice. Thank you. That's
I
it.
have a question too, Mr. Buckles, and maybe Laura, somebody can answer it. How, is it on a volunteer basis or does the principal pick who is trained in CPR?
It is actually, some of it is on voluntary basis, but a lot of it is people who are required by statute to fulfill that responsibility, like our health room assistants, all have to have CPR. There has to be a certain number of staff members on campus with CPR. Your PE coaches must have CPR. So there are certain people.
Science teachers.
Well, it depends. I mean, but reality is there has to be enough, because like when a student goes on a field trip, someone who is CPR certified must be on the field trip with them. Anybody who delivers medication to a student, anybody who's responsible for giving medication out must be CPR certified. So it just really depends on what assignment a person has, whether that's voluntary or not.
Okay. Thank you.
List is posted in schools.
Yes, and it must be posted in the school.
Better.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I make a motion that we approve G1.
Second.
Got a second from Ms.
Ms.
Gilliard.
Gilliard seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, up next, no emergency items. Way to go, Ms. Horny. No unfinished business, but we do have some new business. The first item is discussion, input, and action, budget amendments for March 2018. Ms. Odom?
Yes, ma'am. These are pretty mild. So the budget amendments for March, in the general fund, we have an increase of revenue of $396,222.26. $20 of that were donations for payroll deductions for the backpack program, and so that revenue was brought into that project. A donation from Source for Teachers for the Teacher of the Year plaques of $105, and E-rate revenue from the DCP grant of $396,097.26. In the capital project funds, there were no changes in revenue or fund balance. In school food service, also no change in revenue or fund balance. In the special revenue fund, we had an increase of revenue of $1,094,583.64. That was comprised of Title II Part A, supporting effective instruction certified roll forward of $112,915.07. Title I Part A roll forward correction that was sent in of a negative $6,331.43, and the Schools of Hope Whole School Transformation Model Top 3 grant at Miller for $988,000. In the internal service funds, which are NEFAC funds, there was an increase in revenue of $417,703. $10,000 of that, the building code project appropriated excess collected revenue into their funds to spend, and then the state personnel development grant was received of $407,703. And in the enterprise funds, which are also NEFAC, there was no change in revenue or fund balance.
Any questions for? No. Thank you, Ms. Odom.
All right. No.
The next,
I think you have to vote the budget amendments.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Miss Nikki.
I made a second.
And I'm just going to continue standing here for the next one in case there's
Okay,
questions.
because I wasn't sure who was, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We have discussion, input, and action on the RFP 540-311-807, financing for energy retrofit.
Okay, Board, if you'll recall, we had a workshop on the district's proposed plan on getting 3 new chillers and energy-efficient lighting, and you gave us permission to go out and submit an RFP to see what was out there as far as financing. We had 3 banks that responded to our RFP, and I've provided you a printout. The bids came in from Capital City Bank, Bank of America, and Center State Bank. We had a committee that looked at the different financing options, and Capital City Bank came in as the best option out there. They gave a 2.69% rate, and I had projected that we would probably be at 2.75, and that's what I had passed out at the workshop, you know, what it would cost if our interest rate was 2.75. And even their expenses seem to be a little bit better, the expenses that we would incur in order to do that. So I brought it before you, you know, for the board's consideration on proceeding with this project, entering into an agreement with the bank to borrow the money. It would be similar, well, it would be exactly like the 5 years that we did with the buses. It'll be paid from capital projects. The statute said you can enter into a 1-year agreement with an automatic renewal for 4 more years, and that's how we are able to do the 5-year plan. And I'm sure Thomas and John are both here today too to answer any questions that you might have.
I was asked, did we have to pay the FP&L back, the $200,000 to do the audit?
That has not been paid yet, but it is a requirement. They gave
So
us a deadline, and then Thomas worked with them and to get an extension of that so that if this is approved, those funds would be able to pay that.
So that'll be part of the loan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for me or anything
board
for
members,
Thomas or
any-
John?
Have any questions for Mr. Chastain? I know he's ready to answer
John
any
loves to talk.
questions we might have.
And I will say that if you do approve it and choose Capital City Bank, that at the next board meeting, they are presenting a resolution. It'll just be for their records to show that the board, something
Is
for the
entering
board to
into an
sign,
agreement
right.
with- Well, you know, reading over that, Capital City was by far the best bid.
Yes, ma'am. And they also recently won our banking RFP for the district, all the funds. We've been with them for years, but every 4 or 5 years, we
go out to bid.
go out for bid just to be sure that we're getting the best that we can for
Well,
the district.
You know, and it is something that we have to do in the best interest of our facilities and to save money in the future. We have to do this.
Madam Chairman, could I make a motion?
You certainly can.
That we approve the retrofit for energy.
Second.
Ms. Gilliard seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, it's that time again for board reports from our board members.
I have nothing.
Ms. Jorgensen
You can
has
skip
no-
me. I have
Okay,
nothing.
I'll skip you. Ms. Cummings?
I am thankful that we do have the committee established. I think that we have a lot to move forward with. For one, I'm looking forward to a lot of information coming. I've spent a lot of hours, more than I care to think about, on the phone with different districts and different ideas. And today actually was really exciting for Duval County. They've unveiled their plan, and they sent a PowerPoint, and I just sent it to the board members and to maybe the superintendent to send it to the committee, but they've spent a lot of time. They have a whole slideshow. But the meeting today looked like one of the options, which I consider, and I keep saying over and over, and they are at the elementary schools, not in all the schools, but they are hiring and they have the timeline, which is really similar to ours, but they are hiring something called a school safety assistant, and it is something that they will be trained as guardians, and they will be their job title, which would be board approved, and a job description made by their school board, and they are in the process of doing that. They will approve that at their next meeting, but they actually are called school safety assistants. The sheriff's department is training them as guardians, and that will be their #1 job, to be a school safety. They're paying them $12 an hour, and they're way within their budget, which again, with our money, I think that is an absolutely unbelievable solution to keeping things in the law and also with the budget constraints. So I forward that to my fellow board members. There's the sheriff, the superintendent there, is appointed, and he is actually very excited about this idea and wants to, have us many questions we may have. So again, I'm hoping the committee would reach out to look at those ideas, but that is something that is being done in Duval County.
I saw that on the news tonight.
It's exciting.
It is
very exciting. So there's a lot of options to consider, and I'd hope that we looked. And the other thing that we got today from the school board, FSBA, are the survey. So I went ahead and printed out copies because it's really nice to see, again, what the state's doing. So I printed copies for my fellow board members, and I asked that the superintendent forward that to the committee, because again, it's just a nice overview of the state. And there are also a Safe Schools website, and you can email questions, which I've been in contact with them a lot, and they're really very gracious to offer advice. And that is the Florida DOE. So they are the ones that make these decisions. And so there's a Safe Schools phone number, and there's a Safe Schools email, and there's a Safe Schools website. So there's a lot of places to get information to consider all the ins and outs to Senate Bill 7026.
Thank you.
So again, I just appreciate the fact that we have the ability to look at our other 66 districts that are in the same boat as us, and we can work together, and it's nice to have partnership. Nobody's saying, hey, this is my idea, you can't have it, you know, just like the Duval County and all the things that are going on across NEFACT. And I've spoken to a lot of different NEFACT members in some different counties, and it's exciting to hear that everybody wants and is passionate and wants to do what's best. So sharing information is very evident, and that's a positive thing for me. So, and FSA, I was excited. My kids came home and said how easy the test was, Mom.
That's
we knew
not always
all
a good
the tests. No, they felt prepared. The teachers were excited. I took a bunch of snacks yesterday. We are having a great celebration, getting ready, and it's exciting to see the kids are not they weren't apprehensive. They were, we got this. And it's a great feeling to see the teachers who put in so much time and energy to make those kids feel special and give them the encouragement that they can do a good job. And that's what's exciting about they could take the stress of the test and get bogged down, but you know what, the innovative teachers that say, we're going to celebrate, we're going to show how awesome we are. And that's what I'm excited about. The school culture of this test is, we own this test, we've got this test. So I appreciate all those teachers that spend all their time, energy, money. Gosh, they buy their treats, and they have all these.
It's amazing, the things on Facebook.
Wow, and they're so innovative, and they spend so much time, and to make their kids feel special. So again, I can't thank those teachers enough to spend that extra time to do what's right and help the kids, you know, feel important and feel valued. So appreciate that. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Cummings. Mr. Buckles.
I'm looking forward to the national archery competition in Kentucky, and it's a lot of high schools are totally busy right now with athletics and trying to wind down the season. So we've got buses on the road and all times of the night, and it seems like bringing them back from ball games and tournaments and things. But just like to ask everybody to be this last, as we wind down. I didn't mean winding down. As we wind down the school year, to just find some way to maybe get normally secondary schools, we do something on texting and driving, or drinking and driving, and showing wrecked automobiles and things like that. It'd just be a good thing to do if you knew somebody that would line that up and let kids see what happens when you don't pay attention. But other than that, everything, I'm very satisfied. I'm very happy to see the progress on the committee. That's it.
Buckles, I think I've Michelle Garner, I think, is doing something with awareness on prom night and graduation night.
I figured you guys would be.
And all that.
Right.
Okay. Ms. Gilliard.
Mrs. Carmody, did you prepare this for us to list of
always
activities?
does. Thank you.
I want to thank you for this.
David,
It makes
don't lose it.
just easy to go ahead and put it on our calendars. And to all of the athletes and coaches that were, recognized here this evening, that's a great thing to show our young men how much we appreciate them and what they're doing. And I appreciate the coach and what he said. They're making fine young men, helping them to have integrity, to do what is right in the classroom. And if by chance we get a great athlete out of it, I just thought that was awesome. One of the young men, I taught his daddy in 5th grade. One of them, Bird, is my nephew. On the wrestling team, Brian Smith is my 3rd cousin. And I taught J.J. Gullett in 5th grade, and I taught our attorney in 5th grade at Kelly Smith. And all I have to say is, man, they're getting old. They are, not me. But it's just great, and I like the dynamics of this board in that we sit here and we debate, and we may seem like we're upset with each other, but we're here for what we passionately believe in, and once it passes, and we're back high-fiving each other. So please don't think that we're upset with each other. It takes this to make our district run smoothly. You don't want cookie-cutter board members where we all think the same way, do the same thing, but they know I think I'm the oldest, so I'm the boss. I think that's the way it goes. No, David is older.
No,
you're not.
Jane taught me when I was in elementary school.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
second to youngest, thank you. You through, Ms. Gilliard?
Yes.
Thank you very
Yes.
much for your comments. I've got a couple of things I want to share. The last session of our Master Board training, which was facilitated by Tina Peterson from Florida School Board Association, was it last week? Week before last.
Week before.
And I think we passed. So she will be coming to Putnam County at a later date to award us with our Master Board certification. A lot of training, a lot of talking, a lot went into that. And we're all better board members because of it. It was great taking part in the Catfish Festival. What a wonderful occasion for the Crescent City and South Putnam community. They come together and plan this wonderful event every year, and it's sponsored by Rotary is the main sponsor, the Crescent City Rotary. And if y'all knew how many thousands of dollars they've given out in scholarships to our graduating seniors every year. I don't have a figure, but it is a lot, and they do a great job down there. Last week, I went as a member of the Chamber of Commerce Education Committee, along with Miss Renee Huff and another Chamber of Commerce member, to Flagler County. And we went to attend the flagship symposium where they showcased all of their flagship programs that they offer in all of their schools, elementary, middle, and high school. And these programs are in place to allow their students unique opportunities to discover career paths that lead students in grades K through 12 from classroom success to career success. The Flagler County Economic Development Council identified the industries in Flagler County that were needing employees in the future. So from that information, and Renee, if you want to interject anything, please do. Flagler County Schools came up with these programs, and I want to give you an idea of the programs that they put in place to encourage interest in students and to develop creative thinking. These programs are designed to support students from elementary, middle to high school, and I'm just going to give you one example because there are many and they were amazing, and we heard from students from many of the programs in all of the grade levels, mostly high school though. So for instance, as an example, at Belterre Elementary, the flagship focus is innovation, robotics, and computer sciences. And so they sparked that interest and curiosity at this young age to a multitude of future career opportunities. So these students may want to continue, and they're not stuck in that program. They can change when they go to middle school if they would like, but those that want to continue in that area go to Indian Trails Middle School, where their flagship focus is on engineering and applied robotics, sports leadership, outdoor sciences, and computer science education. So then, after they leave middle school, these students can either go to Flagler Palm Coast or Matanzas High School to continue taking classes in their focus areas. We spoke to a group of seniors at Flagler Palm Coast High School who will sit for the EMT paramedic test at the end of the school year, And if they pass that test, they will be employed as EMT paramedics because they are 18 years old after they graduate. So, I mean, it's just an amazing program. And our chamber is very, very interested. Our superintendent is interested. He was not able to attend this, but I think they're going to something in a week or so back down there to investigate further. But some of the programs of interest are agriculture, aerospace, green technology, health science, engineering, computer science, marine research, finance and business, and leadership and the arts. So they cover a wide range of career and technical programs. So it was an amazing trip.
So you're telling me Flagler County schools are sending students to St. Johns County schools like Matanzas High School?
Matanzas High School is in Flagler County.
Pedro
Menendez.
I'm thinking of Menendez. I'm sorry. I got you.
Yeah. That's
kind of.
They're explorers.
That's
so
kind
we
of
get
what.
them confused.
That's kind of what.
Listening.
That's kind of what the superintendent is working on with St. John's River State College. That would be our ultimate goal. Yes.
Yes. And so I mean, it's just like, hopefully, it's going to all come together sooner rather than later. Mr. Board Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last Friday, I again attended the weekly conference call led by Joy Frank in Tallahassee, and it was a shorter phone call than normal, but it essentially surrounded two of the issues of Senate Bill 7026, one, funding, and two, charter schools. For the funding component, many schools are grappling right now with how long a school safety officer must be present, and it seems the general consensus is from bell to bell, not from the moment the custodial staff arrives on campus early in the morning until the last person leaves at night, 10 o'clock at night. That would be too onerous on the district to be able to support that personnel-wise for those hours. So bell-to-bell coverage for the school safety officer is how most districts are interpreting their requirement. Also, for charter schools, the districts are requiring the charter school to submit their safety plans who are within their district, but it is not the district's job to approve the safety plan of the charter schools within the district, and it will be up to the charter school to determine how they will comply individually with the mandates of 7026.
Charlie, how does our liability, would it be affected if, God forbid, something happened in a charter school?
That's to be determined. We're still in communication with those people who handle risk management, but that's a big concern, and something that when the agenda item comes around, I think a lot of time will be spent grappling with that. Right now, it is something that we are required to have a school safety officer, and whatever happens with that, we're going to have to be covered. And with charter schools, we are not. It is not within the purview of the statute for us to meddle in what the charter school decides, which option they go with, right. one, two, or three. So it may be more of a legal stretch for the actions on their campuses to attach liability to us as a district when we don't have the ability to approve that. Nevertheless, I would anticipate that if something did happen at a charter school, we would be named.
We would be. We would be named.
Of course. I have a question. You had said that at I think after last week's call, they were talking about one officer handling multiple schools. Is that off the table, or is that still maybe?
That is still
bell
the
to
general,
bell means we can't do that.
The general, Joy Frank's opinion is that as long as we are exhausting the funds that we receive, the Safe School money, which my understanding is around $750,000, which is the net that we receive after our district's portion that goes to the charter schools. That we do the very best the district can do with the money that we've been provided by the state. And if that means one safety officer for 2 or 3 schools, that we would not fail a DOE audit.
So like if we
That
shared
was-
between Black High
that's right.
School and Mellon.
That's right.
Well,
So, that is on 7026. I also wanted to mention
exactly.
that the Constitution Review Committee or Revision Commission voted 27-10 on Proposal 6003, which combines 3 other issues that they had previously tackled individually, but they combined in this, that discusses civic literacy,
Can you believe they put those two together?
the term limits on school board members, and also clarifying that the school boards are in charge of the districts and the schools within those districts, but it looks like the intent is to maybe create somewhere down the future a separate governing body for charter schools within the district. So we'll see how that unfolds. That will be coming down the pipe in November. And then finally, I would like to thank the superintendent for inviting me to attend the Top Scholar event next week. And it will be 18 years since I attended that as well. I will be the speaker this year.
Yay! I remember when you were our top scholar.
I was going to say, it's a shame you never got to go when you were in high school.
Yeah.
I think I was there.
He
when
was
you
at
were.
every one of them.
So I'm happy to attend, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
What a great
glad to have you.
thing,
It's an honor.
Superintendent.
Yeah. Along the same lines of 7026, just want to let you know, we had a principal AP meeting 2 separate days last week, and the topic of that meeting was just, again, input about the mental health services for our district, which is, I think we're receiving $337,000 of recurring money. So we just wanted their input, and spent a lot of time discussing that. Mr. Bowen kind of led a discussion on that and facilitated a discussion. So we've taken all those notes. Our leadership team is looking at those notes, and we'll come up with a recommendation. We do have to have a plan written, I believe, by August 1st, I believe, and going forward. So we'll keep you posted on what that looks like. We did invite some of our mental health professionals from the district in, and to get their input as well. So I think we have a good plan going forward. We'll keep you posted. Second of all, talking about funding, I did receive a letter and sent all of you a copy. Don't know if you have the hard copy, but the Putnam County Commission has decided to pull the pari-mutuel funds for next year, which we expected. They put us on notice last year, and some of you I know went to the meeting last year, and the concern last year is they pulled it during the middle of our budget season. So I think the reason why we're hearing it now is just to give us plenty of notice. But we do, that is, they've put us on notice for that, and that is going to be a hard blow. But I do plan on attending the commission meeting next week. I was not available last year, but just again to voice concerns about, hey, we're all in this together, especially school safety and so forth. So I will be conveying. If you have any input on that, I look forward and welcome you to go as well if you'd like to be there when I present. I believe that's Tuesday morning. Did we find the time? Probably 9 o'clock, but we'll double check the time. The 24th at 9 o'clock.
The OCC boardroom?
Yes. So again, it doesn't cost anything to ask, but I think it's worth, it's $200,000 that's going to really impact our budget. I did send you another email today about, I know some of you asked about the First Coast Tech situation. We are now just processing that, getting information. I contacted David Browning today, and he's given us up-to-date information and about what's going on at our Mosley campus. What I've asked David to do is actually come and present to you guys on the May 1st meeting. Tentatively scheduled a 2 o'clock workshop so David can come in and talk about the whole situation, about funding, everything that we've talked about. And I actually sent you part of the statute so you can see exactly what's going on. So that was in the paper today, I believe, in St. Johns County, but on the last few days.
It was last week.
Right. I think there was a post, I think I think Nikki sent a post at First Coast Tech, but we want to try to keep you updated on that. And there's a lot of information that we are now learning too about that. So we'll keep you posted on that. Our next meeting also, Felicia and the IT department and media department is going to be doing a brief presentation on our communication through our district and how we're trying to reach out, push out our message through a number of venues. And Felicia's been that's her whole job, is helping to get the word out. And we have a lot of guys in our media department who do, you know, the Facebook and the YouTube stuff and everything we take for granted. We have a whole staff working on that.
Yeah.
So we just want to make you aware and our community aware of what we're trying to do to push that message out. And finally, on a sad note, just found out, was just handed a note that former First Lady Barbara Bush just passed away.
She did,
Yep. So keep her and her family in your prayers. Yeah.
Great lady.
Yep. That's all I have.
Okay. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.